All right, so when we're looking, again, you're working with your macro, your module, and then adjusting the array. Now, a couple things, we can start messing around with this, right? So we know C is equal to C plus 30, okay? And that's going to be a variable. And if we change this, um, this right here is something that we can change, although it was 10. If we up this, this will change the sort of size. We can also change the step size. We can also change what we're timesing y by. This is like 1. So if we start changing some of these, we're going to get different sort of fields. And depending on what your module is, that's going to really change the field. So this is now doing one that's a little bit more spread out. So this is how we can manipulate sort of the spread. But it's all relative what your module is, right? So the module is going to produce a lot of, variety. So ours is the one that we're using right now is basic. So this is where you got to plug in probably something that's a little bit more compelling, and then adjust this to create the array, right? After you do this, we set up the camera. So one way to do the camera is if we're looking from the top view, we can go to View, Set Camera, Place Camera and Target. So I can place camera and then place target. And then I have to go to Properties, and we can see I had F6. If you type in F6, that will be the camera there. So let's type in, sorry, go ahead. My F6 not working, so I have to go to turn it off. You go to View, Set Camera, there's F6. So there's the camera. You want to switch this to perspective. Sorry, you want to switch this to perspective. So that's in perspective, and that'll really change the way the camera really looks. And then we can start to get inside this thing. The other thing we can change is also the lens length. Sorry, you always have to make sure you have the right view selected. So this widens the camera. Now my advice is then just use your orbit. And if the density is not there, you can increase the density by increasing the steps. So that 0 to 100 can be 0 to 300 every 2. Does that make sense? That'll give you more in the array. Once you're happy, and again, you're just looking to sort of frame the best view of this, and there's some, probably don't want something sort of symmetric. And then this is sort of the first thing you're doing, right? So that's the output. One thing, again, under print, we want to make sure PDF 11 by 17, vector output, set your, this is the point object. So 1 millimeter should be good. Okay. And then print that. Now once you print it, oh, I don't want that. If we open it, for those of you that are advanced users, if we open it up in Illustrator, we can change the thickness of that line or fill it. You can't do it in Rhino, like fill the point to give it more density. So if I open it real quick in Illustrator, So there it is. I can select all of these. A couple things I can do. Well, I think there's always... It doesn't seem like there's a frame. So one thing I can do is change the stroke, right? So if I kick it up, like to 1, but I can also change the fill to black. So now the dots are black. Does this make sense? Then if I just save it again, saves it as a PDF. Yeah, I just hit this and I select them all and just change it black. Fill color black. And then once I save it, I can close it. So, you know, it looks a lot heavier, right? So after you do that, you're gonna come back into Rhino, and you're gonna select an area, okay? So if we go to a true top view, what I mean by an area, pick an area that's square. Like, so you're basically gonna do a square selection. Now, one way of doing that is building a box. So if we know what our box size, I mean, it gets a little trickier with the box. So you can make a box, you know, start off maybe like, okay, this is that box is about 81 feet, so we can make then a box that is 0, 0, and then we go 80 feet, 80 feet, 80 feet. So we have the size. So it's square. And then maybe we move this into a region that we want to pick. And then it's easy to do a couple things. We can go ahead and say, I'm trying to remember. I mean, the easiest if we just do a select window. Alright, so we select sort of from that window. Also selecting the box. Then we do an invert. And we say hide. So that's from a top view, and then we do the same thing from a front view. Select window. Invert. Hide. And now we have a selection. You can hide that. Alright, so we have a sampling of points. Okay. Now we have to start evaluating this. I'm going to switch this to parallel. So we can go with our layers. So this might be like line 01, say. Now if we look at this maybe more in the different views, let me turn off camera. We can start to maybe find, like based on what our technique is, we might find some repeating elements, right? This looks very repetitive from the right view, huh? It's like a grid. Sorry? This is the right view. So the left view will look the same. The front looks like so. That's the top. Because it is. It's because they were offset X and Z in the same direction. Or sorry, Y and Z. So the only oscillation is in X. So that's why it's moving in X in this direction. So what we can start to do, and when we do this in Grasshopper, we'll start to sort of set up some of these already. We can start to look for like what I call these constellations, right? Well, if we look at repeating points, and I think I have a good enough sample area here. Yeah, I think I probably cut in too close because I think it's not repeating enough. But say I'm okay with it. So I see a pattern sort of emerging based on sort of movement that's happening this way, and that way. Okay. So I start to define a line. So I can do a P line, and I can say my starting point should happen sort of on a perimeter. And one thing that could help us, let's take a step back. I'm going to do one thing that's really going to help us. What I'm going to do is, let's say show. Richard, you should wake up for this. Maybe not. Let's run the script again. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to run this. And then I'm going to stop it. Okay? The reason why is I'm going to put these on their own layers. So I'm going to put each point. Now I can run that in the, I can actually run that in the script to make it on layers, but let's not overtool this. So let's just make point 01. Point 02. We'll give them different colors. It'll be easier to see than the formation. So this one we'll go to properties, we'll just switch the layers on these. Yeah, yellow is always not a good color because that's selection. Okay, so those are our points. What I can do now is just quickly just get rid of that and just run the top part. Select that as a module and then do it. So this will be easier to see the, yeah, where the pattern is. And I think what's happening here, because our pattern is so, it's not moving that much, so we need to increase it more. so let's do an undo and start manipulating these numbers. So you see the pattern now a little bit more. So it's good in the Z and the Y. So now we got to up a little bit the X, yeah. Yeah, well, you can hit cancel. Control Z. So let's up the. Yeah, this is going to be the X. This will kick up the. So again, you're doing this with your own project, so you're getting different results, right? Okay, so say we're... So now I think if we take... And the other thing is too, we can now take some samplings out of this, right? So let's just go ahead. I'm just going to grab an area. Sorry? I was just in a perspective view. Now I'm in a top view. Now I'm in a front view. Alright, so now we can really see a pattern, right? It's a little easier to see it too because I can turn things on and off. But now I can go to like my line 1 and say I'm going to go 0.1 is red. So we can start turning those off. So that's all the red. And a lot of these are going to be very similar, right? So I'm going to start with 0.1. And I'm going to go P line, make sure point is on. And I'm going to go, say, start from an end. I'm going to go in 1, start in the end, in 1. Okay? And then I might go and start producing something that does that. Okay, so that's maybe a technique I'm working across. And then I'm going to turn on those points. And then I can do the same technique but pick a different location, right? So that might be line 02. No, it's okay. I'll switch it real quick. Let's make it something a little bit more obvious. Properties. Okay. And then, we can look at that point. Actually, the blue one's going to be the one that's really going opposite. And this one might be something that's quite different. So we start making this sort of formation, right? But you're coming up with your own idea how you're doing that. Ultimately, what we're going to do then is take these. So this is what you're coming in with, okay? And then what you're going to do is, once you have that made, you go to Set View, ISO Northeast, okay? And then maybe you do one from Southwest. A couple things we can do. We can also make this just 2D. I can take this and say, dimension, make 2D. Right, now it's a 2D. And then I just make a print of that, right? So I print it. And I want both sort of two views of that, right? So your points and then 2 views of your new line constellations. I want to see them all together. Just turn on and off. Yeah, by turning on and off. That's how you would separate them. Two isometrics, yeah. Try to get this thing dense enough to where we start to read the volume. Okay. What's that?
Feeling a lot better about this.
Yeah, feeling better. Good. All right, I'm gonna stop this and I'll upload it.